You are probably using Claude like a simple question-answer bot. But what if I told you there's a way to make it think like a human expert, breaking down complex problems step by step? Today I will show you how multi-step reasoning workflows transform Claude from a tool into a thinking partner. Think you are using Claude right? You are not. A hidden power unlocks complex analysis. That clunky, incomplete response you just got. That's the symptom. You asked one layered question and received a surface-level reply. The problem isn't the AI's capability, it is the single-step prompt. You are forcing a masterpiece into a single brushstroke, so you get a vague sketch instead of the detailed analysis you actually need. That single prompt is a dead end. You are asking for complex reasoning but demanding it happen invisibly, all at once. What this means is you are missing the entire thought process, the crucial analysis, the validation of assumptions, the structured logic. The key insight is that quality requires visible, iterative steps. You are trading depth for a single, shallow transaction. Without that multi-step structure, your single prompt forces all critical evaluation to happen silently, if at all. The system cannot weigh alternatives or test its own logic for you to see. What this means is you are left with a final answer that skipped the necessary refinement, leaving potential errors and shallow reasoning buried in the output. Have you ever sent a prompt and just hoped for the best? That single request forces a rushed, internal process. You miss the chance to guide the logic, check for blind spots, or refine the direction mid-thought. The system's best work happens through layered reasoning, and a single prompt completely bypasses that critical, collaborative exploration. Think you know Claude. One prompt will not solve your toughest problems. Stop treating AI like a magic 8-ball. It's not about getting one instant answer. The real power lies in architecting a thought process. You need to guide Claude step by step, forcing it to reason and refine. This is how you move from getting shallow replies to building deep, high-quality solutions. The quality of your process dictates the quality of your output. Think of every complex task as an assembly line for thought. Instead of asking for a finished product, you design a sequence of reasoning stations. This structure forces depth, precision, and consistency that a single query cannot touch. You are not just asking questions, you are engineering the thinking process itself. How often have you hit submit, only to realize the AI's response is already off track? That's the pain point. The breakthrough is this: you do not just give a command, you insert feedback loops. If step 1 is shaky, you fix it there before step 2. This makes your AI's reasoning self-correcting and dramatically more reliable. Think that initial prompt you wrote is the finish line. It is not. That first AI response is just the starting block. Your job now is to critique and build upon that reasoning with your next prompt. This creates a staircase of insights, where each step is more solid because it is built on the last. Forget one-shot questions. Claude's real power is a step-by-step chain of thought. So, you've broken down the complex task. What happens next? The key insight is that you must intentionally plan how Claude moves through these logical chunks. This is where you architect the reasoning sequence. You decide the flow of thought, ensuring each step builds perfectly on the last to avoid dead ends. Think of it like constructing a skyscraper. You never pour the top floor first. Each completed step forms the essential, unshakable foundation for the next. What this means is you are forcing Claude to lay every single brick of logic in order, guaranteeing the final conclusion is built on solid ground, not guesswork. Think your project's done once the insights are gathered? That's where brilliance is often lost. This phase is where raw components transform into a polished masterpiece. The key insight is that synthesis forces deliberate connections, revealing the true narrative. What this means is you aren't just reporting findings, you are architecting understanding. Stop asking Claude questions. Start building reasoning workflows instead. You are facing a huge, messy business question right now, aren't you? Where do you even begin? Let's stop the guesswork. First, you force clarity. Specifically define the market you are analyzing and the concrete metrics that will signal success. This isn't a vague goal, it's your precise starting line. Now, move beyond simple comparisons. You must dissect their strategic foundation. What are their undeniable advantages, and where do they expose critical vulnerabilities? This analysis isn't about copying, it's about finding the exact pressure points where you can outmaneuver them and claim your territory. This is your strategic moment. You do not just list what they lack. You synthesize all your competitor intel to reveal the unfulfilled needs their customers are desperate for. That's the gap. The opportunity is the unique advantage you possess to fill it. Spot this intersection, and you've found the blueprint for your market dominance. The key insight is that strategy lies in synthesis, not summary. You aren't just reporting data, you are revealing the logical next move. This step connects the gap to your unique capabilities, producing a crystal-clear prescription for action. What this means is transforming information into a direct command for growth. That's the power of structured reasoning. There's a secret way most users completely overlook with Claude. Think of this like solving a complex equation. You wouldn't just write the final answer. By forcing Claude to reveal each logical step, you expose the hidden machinery of its reasoning. The process itself becomes your most valuable output, allowing you to validate, correct, and truly trust the final, sophisticated result it delivers. The key insight is that these checkpoints are your strategic leverage. You are not just receiving an answer, you are directing an intellectual process. What this means is you can intercept flawed logic before it cascades, injecting your expertise precisely where it matters most. You become the conductor, ensuring every step aligns perfectly with your ultimate goal. Picture it as handing Claude a blueprint, not just a request. You are building a reasoning scaffold where each step strengthens the next, turning vague complexity into a clear, accountable process. This sequential momentum ensures your final output isn't just an answer, but a validated conclusion built on a solid foundation of logic. Here's the power move. You are installing checkpoints in Claude's reasoning process. This forces a pause where logic gets stress-tested for flaws. The insight is that catching a single misstep early prevents a cascade of errors in your final result. You are not just getting an answer, you are ensuring it is built on verified, fault-tolerant thinking. They ask one question. The pros build entire workflows instead. Rather than one-shot prompting, you build a sequence. First, analyze your target audience deeply. Then, layer in competitive keyword research. This creates a strategic foundation that informs every piece of content you will create, ensuring it is both relevant and discoverable from the very start. Now, you have got that powerful strategic base. But here's the common mistake, jumping straight to writing. That's when everything falls apart. Instead, your next step is to take that strategic intelligence and channel it into a creative direction. You must systematically develop the specific angle and the structured outline before a single sentence is written. Right. So the strategy is defined. Now, shift from analysis to creative execution. The critical move is a systematic tone analysis. This determines whether your content will feel authoritative or conversational, technical or inspirational. That single decision dictates every word you write and directly shapes audience connection from the very first line. Think of it like launching a spacecraft. The creative engine is roaring, but without a precise flight path, it's just noise and fire. Distribution planning is your mission control, defining each channel's trajectory. Performance metrics are your telemetry, the real-time data confirming you're on course or signaling a crucial correction needed. Most think Claude just answers questions. That's completely backward. Here's the core mistake: you'll try to force every step upfront. That's a perfect recipe for a confusing, brittle mess. The key insight is that the most powerful workflows emerge from a simple foundation. You build complexity only where absolutely necessary. What this means is starting with a single, sharp objective, then letting the reasoning process define its own logical next steps. So you've built a foundation. But a common failure point? Losing track of your own logic between those steps. The pattern clearly indicates a disjointed flow kills momentum. Here's what's really happening: each step must hand off a crystal clear context to the next. Without that, your reasoning collapses. You are not just linking tasks, you are architecting a conversation. The key insight is this: you must consciously set the right level of thinking for each phase. What this means is a brainstorming step needs a wide, exploratory context, while a final drafting phase demands tight, focused constraints. Fail to adjust, and your workflow will either drift aimlessly or become stifled, crushing its own creative potential. This is where clarity becomes power. You must constantly evaluate the complexity of the information your workflow is handling. The rule is decisive: if a step is generating confusion, simplify relentlessly. If it is producing shallow output, you must force it to elaborate. Your control over this tension directly dictates the sophistication of the final result. Think you are using Claude correctly. You are probably missing its most powerful feature. The real magic happens when these workflows become permanent assets. You do not solve the same problem twice. You standardize your genius, building a library of proven solutions. This turns one-off victories into a repeatable system, saving you hours. Your best thinking becomes a reusable template, ready to tackle any future challenge with precision. Variables are your anchors for intelligent flow. Set a key concept once, like a project objective or brand tone, and it propagates perfectly through every analysis or draft that follows. This ensures your reasoning builds on a solid, unified foundation, eliminating contradictions and creating seamless, professional results every single time. Now, do not let great work get lost in the final stretch. After any major phase, your research, your analysis, your draft, you must pause for a deliberate checkpoint. Ask, does this meet the core objective? Is the logic sound? This single habit transforms your workflow, catching errors early and guaranteeing that every piece evolves correctly, saving you massive revisions later. Now, you have just built a brilliant workflow. Do not lose it in your chat history. The absolute best practice is to create a prompt document for your team. This instantly multiplies your success. A single documented prompt becomes a standard, allowing anyone to execute a complex analysis with a single click, eliminating guesswork and duplication of effort. Multi-step workflows transform Claude from answer giver to thinking partner. Proper structure enables handling of complex, nuanced problems. The key is breaking tasks into logical, sequential reasoning phases. Try building your first multi-step workflow with your most complex current project.